So we need to talk about the Vampire Diaries because, honey, the tea that's been spilled recently is absolutely scalding. And I'm not talking about some minor drama, we're talking about pay inequality, toxic fandoms, pregnancy scares on set, and racism behind the scenes. This new book, I Was Feeling Epic, has basically blown the lid off everything we thought we knew about what was really happening when the cameras stopped rolling. Let's start with the biggest bombshell, Nina Dobrev's pay situation. You guys, this is actually infuriating when you break it down. So Nina was literally the main character of the show, right? Elena Gilbert was the protagonist. But here's the kicker, she was also playing Katherine Pierce and sometimes other doppelgangers too. So she's essentially doing the work of multiple actors, learning different character mannerisms, different accents, playing completely different personalities. That's not just double the work, that's double the talent required. But despite all of this, Nina, along with Candice King and Kat Graham, were among the lowest paid series regulars in seasons 1 and 2. Meanwhile, Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley, who were playing one character each, were making significantly more money. And when Nina tried to renegotiate for equal pay, arguing that she was literally doing more work than anyone else on that set, the studio and producers allegedly refused to give her the same rate as the boys. And Nina has said it wasn't even about the money itself, it was about the principle. The disrespect of being told you're worth less when you're clearly carrying the show on your back. Can you imagine being the lead actress, playing multiple complex roles, and having executives tell you that your male co-stars deserve more money than you? In 2024, this hits different. But remember, this was happening in the early 2010s when conversations about pay equality weren't as mainstream. But it gets worse. According to the book, studio executives actually tried to discourage the writers from writing storylines for Katherine Pierce because, get this, that would mean they'd have to pay Nina more money. Julie Plec, the showrunner, literally had to fight with executives just to let Nina play Katherine. They were willing to hurt the show's quality rather than pay a woman fairly. That is absolutely wild to me. And this explains so much about Nina's departure after season 6. For years, everyone speculated it was because of her breakup with Ian Somerhalder. And while that timeline seems suspicious, Nina always denied it. Now we know the real tea, she was fighting a system that fundamentally didn't value her contributions equally. The drama continued even with her return for the series finale. Fans were so excited to see Elena wake up in that final episode. But apparently we almost didn't get that at all. Nina wanted to come back for the entire final season. Imagine how different season 8 could have been with Elena actually present for the storylines instead of just sleeping through everything. But because she hadn't been in recent seasons, they offered her less money than when she was a series regular. She basically said, absolutely not, and was prepared to skip the finale entirely. Julie Plec had to go to bat for her again, pleading with executives to let Nina return at the salary she deserved. They agreed to pay her properly, but only for one episode. One single episode. So all those fans who thought Nina only wanted to do a quick cameo? Nope. She wanted to be there for the full season, but the studio was too cheap to make it happen. Now let's talk about Kat Graham's experience, because this is where things get really heavy. Kat has opened up about how racism shaped her entire experience on the Vampire Diaries, both in how Bonnie Bennett was written and in the culture behind the scenes. And when you look back at Bonnie's storylines, it's honestly heartbreaking. Bonnie was constantly put in sacrificial roles, using her magic to save everyone else, dying and coming back, being trapped in prison worlds, always suffering for other people's happiness. She rarely got storylines focused on her own growth, her own relationships, or her own happiness. She was the magical black best friend whose primary purpose was to fix everyone else's problems, often at great personal cost. Julie Plec has actually admitted that they messed this up. She acknowledged that the writers were doing what they called colorblind writing, basically pretending race didn't matter, but that approach actually erased the reality of having a black actress in such a central role. They weren't considering how their writing choices would impact Kat or how audiences would perceive Bonnie's treatment. And honestly, the fans picked up on this too. The way Bonnie was written, especially in romantic storylines, was problematic. While Elena got to choose between two vampire brothers and Caroline had multiple love interests, Bonnie's romantic life was often sidelined or used as a plot device. Even when she did get romantic storylines, they were frequently interrupted by some magical crisis that required her to sacrifice her happiness. Moving on to Ian Somerhalder's revelations, and this is probably the most shocking part of the entire book. We always assumed Nina left because of the awkwardness with Ian, but it turns out Ian was the one who wanted to escape the toxicity. He's revealed that the negativity from parts of the fandom actually made him want to quit acting altogether. Ian described certain fans as creating what he called cancer to society. These weren't just disappointed viewers. These were people who became genuinely hostile and toxic, particularly fans who were obsessed with the Damon and Elena relationship. When things didn't go the way they wanted in the show, or in real life with Ian and Nina's relationship, they would lash out online in really disturbing ways. The shipping culture became so intense that fans were blurring the lines between fiction and reality. They weren't just invested in Damon and Elena as characters, they were invested in Ian and Nina as real people. And when that real-life relationship ended, some fans couldn't handle it. Ian compared it to extreme sports rivalries, where people become genuinely hostile if their team doesn't win. This is actually a really important conversation about fandom culture and parasocial relationships. There's a difference between being passionate about a show and becoming so obsessed that you start harassing real people. Ian said that while it's great to feel something about a show, it's never okay to hurt someone else because of your excitement or love for that fictional story. The experience was so traumatic for Ian that it shifted his entire view of acting and television. He basically said he was disgusted and frustrated by the whole thing, and it made him lose interest in pursuing more TV projects. Can you imagine being so successful in your career, but having the experience ruined by toxic fans? Now let's talk about Candice King's pregnancy situation during season 7, because this is both fascinating and terrifying. So Candice was pregnant in real life, and the writers decided to incorporate that into Caroline's storyline, except Caroline was going to give birth to twins through magical pregnancy circumstances, which required filming intense medical scenes. Candice refused to film the actual birth scenes herself because she was terrified it could trigger early labor. And she had good reason to be scared. There was another actress, who fans think was Sarah Drew from Grey's Anatomy, who went into premature labor just 10 hours after filming a birth scene for her show. That is absolutely terrifying. So Candice got the script the night before filming and basically said, "I cannot and will not risk this." She asked for a stand-in or for the scenes to be rewritten so she wouldn't be on camera giving birth. The crew wasn't thrilled about this because they couldn't get all the shots they wanted, but Julie Plec had to completely pivot the storyline to accommodate Candice's very reasonable safety concerns. They ended up using Candice's longtime stand-in for all the medical scenes, and Candice was grateful for the movie magic that made it work. But imagine the pressure she was under being pregnant, having to work long hours on a physically demanding show, and then being expected to potentially risk her health for a fictional birth scene. What's really striking about all these revelations is how they paint a picture of a show that was hugely successful on screen, but had some serious problems behind the scenes. You had pay inequality, racial insensitivity, toxic fandom pressure, and pregnancy-related safety concerns all happening while they were trying to make this beloved supernatural drama. It also makes you wonder about other shows from that era, and honestly, current shows too. How many other productions have similar issues that we just don't know about? The entertainment industry has made some progress on these fronts, but clearly, there's still work to be done. The timing of these revelations is interesting too. The Vampire Diaries ended in 2017, but here we are in 2024 still talking about it because these issues are still relevant. Pay equality is still a problem in Hollywood. Racism in storytelling is still an issue. Toxic fandom behavior has actually gotten worse in some ways with social media. And workplace safety, especially for pregnant actresses, is still a concern. What's also fascinating is how this recontextualizes Nina's departure from the show. For years, the narrative was that she left because of personal drama with Ian, which made her seem unprofessional or petty. But now we know she was actually fighting for fair treatment and equal pay, which makes her departure seem principled and brave rather than dramatic. And honestly, good for Nina for standing her ground. It would have been easy to just accept less money to avoid conflict, but she recognized that accepting unfair treatment would set a precedent not just for herself, but potentially for other actresses in similar situations. The book, I Was Feeling Epic, seems to be giving these actors a chance to tell their side of the story and set the record straight on what really happened. It's an oral history, so we're getting direct quotes and perspectives from the people who lived through these experiences rather than just speculation and rumors. This whole situation also highlights how much we don't know about what happens behind the scenes of our favorite shows. We see the polished final product and the carefully managed public personas, but there's always so much more going on that we never hear about. So what do you think about all this tea? Are you surprised by these revelations, or does it confirm suspicions you already had? Let me know in the comments because I'm honestly still processing all of this information. The Vampire Diaries was such a huge part of pop culture, and it's wild to learn that so much drama was happening behind the scenes while we were all just trying to figure out if we were Team Stefan or Team Damon.